Welcome to episode number 285 of the Marine Layer podcast. It's a mailbag episode, so we'll open it up and answer your guys' best listener questions. We'll talk about the Mariners' horrendous road trip on the East Coast, the return of Bryce Miller, and Emerson Hancock making the move to the bullpen.
Your guys' reminder, if you want to stay on top of all of our stuff, everything is right over at our website. That's marinelayerpod.com, where you can find all of our episodes. Go rate and review if you're on Apple Podcasts or any of our podcast platforms. We'd love to see all the Apple Podcast reviews go up. Heck, if you guys keep sending them in, we'll read some of them. That's actually a really fun thing to do, good or bad. We hope it's good. We hope you leave it 5 stars. We love the 5-star reviews. So if you want to rate and review on Apple, Spotify, go do that. Please like, comment, subscribe over on YouTube. Subscribing on YouTube is the best way you can support the channel. Go get your merch. Sign up for our Patreon. Check out our live show schedule. All of that's over at our website, and then you can go find us on social media at Marine Layer Pod.
Let's get it rolling.
The pitch from Acevedo. A drive deep to right field. Down the line. The Mariners win this game 2-1. The dream lives. They're going to the playoffs. One run from Jansen. There you go. Left field. We got a tie ball game. Julio. Oh, baby, what a moment. Tie ball game is 7-7.
And we welcome you to this episode of the Marine Layer podcast, part of the Just Baseball Podcast Network. Recording on Thursday evening, August 21st. That road trip was so horrendously bad, Lyle, that I literally don't even want to start talking about it. It does not deserve the oxygen at the start of this episode. So instead, I'm going to give the people what they want. I'm going to give people something more fun. How does this idea sound?
Hold up. Are you sure the people want something more fun and positive? We know we have we know we have people in the fan base that absolutely thrive on hatred and negativity.
Didn't say it wasn't going to exist. I just said it does not deserve, that performance does not deserve the first 3 minutes of this episode. Capiche?
Yeah, it does not deserve our time or energy, yes.
Thank you. How about this instead? I was scrolling Twitter before the show started. Just literally wasn't even looking for content. And I scroll across Talking Baseball's Twitter account. And they did some realignment, which we talked about realignment a little bit with Giraffe Neck Mark Luino on Wednesday's episode. So it's on the top of everyone's mind, and everyone's throwing some ideas out there. And Talking Baseball did a reshuffle. They did their own mock reshuffle of what the potential divisions could look like. Lyle, I want you to listen to this Mariners division. The Western Mountain Division consists of the Seattle Mariners, Salt Lake City expansion baseball team, the Colorado Rockies, and the Sacramento/Las Vegas A's. Does that not sound like the greatest division ever assembled for the success of the Mariners?
I'm going to say something I thought I'd never utter about this baseball team. I'm going to say something I thought I'd seriously never utter. The Mariners should win 15 of 20 division titles in the next 20 years in that division.
The Mariners should turn into the Atlanta Braves.
They should.
Of like the 90s.
Instead of Atlanta at last, it's Seattle's success. I don't know.
Just like walk yourself through that division. It's an expansion team in not a massive market, so there's the hurdles to go there. They have to establish organizationally, all of these things. You have probably the worst current franchise in the Colorado Rockies. Like, they're pretty bad. If you need like a reminder, I can't remember if it was Jake or Jordan who wrote an article on Yahoo earlier this year. Might have been Jake on the state of the Colorado Rockies and how just inept they are. Really good read, by the way. You have probably the cheapest team of the last 30 years in the A's. And then you have baseball's least successful / worst franchise ever in the Mariners. I mean, are we talking about just the ultimate suck division?
Could you imagine how pissed off that East division would feel? Now I'm taken from Jim Bowden's article, but if there was an actual division in realignment that was the Mets, the Yankees, the Phillies, and the Red Sox, and they're looking over at the Mariners, the Rockies, the A's, and an expansion team, what would be going through their heads?
Rage, anger. Think about this. For the other West Coast teams that are grouped together in a division, it's Dodgers, Angels, Padres, Giants, all in the same division. 3 of 4 of those teams actually try. And you're looking at the Mountain Division, Lyle. There's a real case that there could be a year when none of the 4 teams try.
I'm trying to think of what meme this best resembles. If you're that Red Sox, Yankees, Phillies, Mets division, and you're looking at the Mariners' new division, what meme or what trend does that symbolize? There is absolutely an example for this, and I'm trying to think about it on the fly.
I don't know, but I will say at least there's like a mirror division, it seems like, in each the Western and the Eastern League. The Southeast is not much better, Lyle. It's the expansion Nashville team, the Rays, the Marlins, and the Braves.
But at least you have the Braves and the Rays.
Yeah, the Rays don't spend any money, though.
They don't, but they're still competitive.
It is, I'll say the Rays are better than either of the other 3 teams in the Mariners division.
I mean, the Rays are better than the Mariners over the last 10 years. They've had way more success. They've been to a World Series. They're constantly in the playoffs.
That's a fair point. There would be a couple of divisions in baseball that would have a bitch fest, excuse my language, about that division that the Mariners would be in. But I thought that was fun. I thought that was a slightly positive way to start this episode off.
What do you mean, excuse your language? What, you think we don't curse on this podcast?
I can say that's yes. Some people don't like it.
I don't think that's the worst thing we've ever said on here. But yes.
No, it's definitely not. No.
I'm still sitting here trying to think of what meme this would be. There is some meme for like big brother, little brother, or one team just absolutely overpowering another. I don't know why it's blanking. I usually have a quick example for this.
Would this not be like a Step Brothers thing?
Except those are 2 equals.
But there's not a moment in there where one thinks the other is lower, smaller.
No, you haven't. I don't think you've watched the movie close enough.
No, not as much as you.
There's some meme for this.
There's not a Happy Gilmore line in here.
I'll have to come back to it. There's some meme that this resembles. Maybe people can drop it in the comments.
Okay. Well, why don't you think of this? What?
I will say, or if you don't drop it in the comments and you are like us, where it takes you an extra day or so to think of a good meme for this, you could always tell us at our live show on Saturday, because we will have a live show Saturday after the game. That's over at the Hall on Occidental. It's going to be a blast. If anybody was at the last one where we did down there after the game, and there's all these people filing in, and people are wanting to ask questions on the mic off the street. It was super fun. It was super interactive, and we had an absolute blast doing it. And we're going to be doing it again on a really nice night after the game on Saturday, about 30 minutes after the final out, again, over at the Hall on Occidental Avenue. So come on out. If you cannot think of something to reply to us with what meme this would resemble with that East Division looking at the new Mariners division, come to the live show and tell us.
Bring your merch, too. Everyone should wear their merch. That should be an assignment for all of you that own merch. Wear your merch to the live show if you're coming. Please, I want to see how many people end up doing that. Wear your merch to the live show. That'll be awesome. I'll have my merch on. I think Lyle will have his merch on. Let's plan to all wear our Marine Layer Pod merch. I think it would look really cool.
And if you're wearing it, tag us in it on Instagram on your story.
Yeah, please do. And you can win some more merch at the live show. So it's a win-win. So please come out, drink some Corona, win some merch, come listen to us. Post-game Saturday night. Hopefully the vibes will be a lot better than they were over this past week and a half, Lyle.
Yeah.
You would think?
Is it even possible to get lower?
Well, it could be what happened last year this week. Do you remember what happened last year this week?
Yeah, as we're sitting here recording, we're basically at the 1-year anniversary of the Scott firing. But as we all know, it wasn't as simple as a Scott Service firing. There was a lot more that went into it than that. It became this absolute nightmare to have to dig through and talk about here on this podcast and everywhere.
Is it funny how it feels a little deja vu-ish?
The losing streak, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 9-game road trip. Last year they went 1-8. This year they went 2-7. And they're not just losing. They get clowned a couple of times. The difference is that team ended up 500 at the end of the road trip. This team is still 8 games above 500. So there's a little more leeway there.
So
but it did feel like it was a Thursday. I remember exactly how it happened. It was on a Thursday. Scott got fired because they had an off day on a Thursday, going into a homestand. And I remember I didn't call out of work, but I was like, I'm going to be late. I think Scott Service is getting fired. We got to do a podcast.
Also,
did not do that today because, Dan's in his first year. Okay, I'm going to take from the great J.B. and Lyle. What was the most vomit-worthy thing of this road trip? Got a lot of options.
I do. I think we have to say the starting pitching. Here's the thing. There's the actual logical baseball answer, or there's putting on our total fan hat and rage hat and giving everybody the answer that they actually want to hear. So which one do you want to start with?
Well, there's actually two different ways to look at this. There's the strategy aspect and the execution aspect of this. The starting pitching is the execution aspect of this.
That was the logical baseball answer I was going to give. Is you cannot pitch like that on the road consistently if you're this pitching staff and want to have success in the playoffs. And I don't know how much there is to say other than that. You have to pitch better than this on the road. You can't have 4 or 5 starters, everybody not named Brian Wu, struggling this much on the road. That's the logical baseball answer.
And we still can't pinpoint the exact reason why. We have a mailbag question about why they're struggling more, and I want to try and get into it a little bit more when we get to that question. But, this is why you have a rotation like this, so you can go out on the road, and when your offense isn't scoring as much, they can keep you in these games. And I'm sitting here and watching as the Mariners, in a row, Lyle, I'm just going to rip off the starts on this road trip. The last 7, the first 2 were good. The last 7 were not. 4 innings, 3 runs. 4 innings, 6 runnings. 6 innings, 1 run. Gee, wonder when Brian Wu pitched. 4 2/3, 7 runs. 2 innings, 6 runs. 5 innings, 4 runs. 4 innings, 3 runs. How are you supposed to win games like that? You don't, to answer your question. You don't.
No.
And the Phillies showed what happens when your starting pitching does show up. They gave themselves so much leeway because they just knew for the first 6 innings of the game, they were clearly the better team because their pitchers were pitching better. Ranger Suarez, Christopher Sanchez, and Jesus Luzardo did some nasty things to that lineup.
And with all those names, you didn't even see the best starter. Yes, Christopher Sanchez is having the best year, and right now he's projected to finish second in the Cy Young behind Paul Skeens. But the Mariners didn't actually have to see the Philadelphia Phillies' best starter. That would be Zach Wheeler, who's on the IL. Didn't have to see him.
The Mariners are not going to have any playoff success or might not even make the playoffs if the rotation does stuff like this. Like we've continued to say, yes, the lineup upgrades were all great and all necessary, and they're going to be a better team because of it. But when the rotation teeters back like this, it just makes it so much harder for them to get the job done that they need to. Full season numbers, we're still sitting here on August 21st, and the rotation is 16th in ERA. They have the best pitcher's park in baseball, and they're 16th in ERA. How does this happen? Too much talent in that rotation to be 16th.
It's a frightening thing to even think about. I don't want to say yes, and I know so many of these guys have stuff that is so good that I don't want to believe this is the answer, and I don't think it is. But after seeing this 2 years in a row now, I partly feel like we have to just throw it out there. Are these guys all T-Mobile merchants?
Are they not as good as some of their numbers suggest? I don't think we can answer that question right now. I think they would have to go pitch somewhere else and answer that question. But I'll tell you what, if there's one thing they don't do very well, it's pitch on the road. And it's going to be very hard for this team going to win anything in the regular season or in the postseason if they don't pitch well on the road. And it's not just not pitching well. What they did on this road trip was just straight up uncompetitive. Mm-hmm. They weren't even keeping, for the most part, the team in the game. And when the team was in the game, there's a whole different portion of the pitching staff that we haven't even mentioned yet that didn't make it very easy on them winning games either.
Luis went 4-3 on Wednesday, but I got to tell you what, that was as close to as uncompetitive a 4-3 as I feel like we've watched. I mean, it is base runner after base runner after base runner, just no efficiency, no, like, you know, he's not getting guys out. That's obvious, but just the way he kept working deep into counts, and it feels like he wasn't fooling anybody with anything. And he exited that game after 4 innings. He was, through 4 innings, he's at 89 pitches.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that's a tough way to try and win a game. And I know Luis has given them a lot this year. Luis has done a lot for them in a year where people wondered what he looked like after a 2024 that presented a lot of potential red flags. And he's turned a lot of it around. There have been things about Luis's season that have been really good. And overall, his season has been very competitive. That start just wasn't.
I'll say this. You and I know, and everyone listening knows, that this rotation is not this bad. But you can't have another week like this. If you have another week like this, it could sink your season. The luckiest part about all of this, you lost 1 game in the division the entire week. The entire road trip, you lost 1 game in the division. Or sorry, you lost a game and a half in the division. And you lost 2 games in the wild card. That's it. It could have been way worse than that. Be thankful for that. Because if the Mariners go into September and do something like this, by the way, against a softer schedule than they're currently facing, the Royals and Guardians have another good stretch. Yankees and Red Sox play fine. The Astros play 500 instead of getting shut out for like 40 innings in a row against the Tigers. Then we're talking about something completely different. And then the alarm bells actually come on. Because right now, I don't think the alarm bells are on. We're disappointed with the performance, but the Mariners are still in a playoff spot. I still think the roster's really good. They just have to pitch better. Find a way to pitch away from T-Mobile Park. And that Guardians series in a week and a half is going to be so big. So big based on how they've been playing.
Now imagine if they had just gone 4-5 on that road trip instead of 2-7. They would be tied for the lead in the West right now.
And comfortably up in the wild card.
Yeah.
But no.
Again, they got lucky. Everybody in the AL was losing, but man, they could have taken advantage.
We've talked a lot about the bullpen. I don't think there's anything new there. We've talked a lot about the manager. I don't think there's anything new there. Can I highlight a positive, though? I think we saw Gino wake up on this trip. Mm-hmm. Gino was good on this trip, especially in Philly. He did still strike out a solid bit, but his OPS was over 800. His WRC Plus was back up in the 130s for this road trip. We saw the power come on. It's a good sign, especially if they have to face teams like the Phillies who can throw 3 straight lefties at them, because when the Mariners right now, based on their current roster, have to face lefties, for some reason on purpose, they put out the worst possible lineup against lefties with players who cannot hit lefties. So when you do have your righties, you know who can hit lefties, like Cal, like Gino, like Randy, like Julio. Those are the guys that are going to have to perform when those said lineups get put out there. And Gino at least did, and Julio, I will say, for that matter. By the way, that pitch he hit for a home run that was off the ground was incredible. That's how you know Julio's back. He's not rolling that over to third. But anyway, shout out to Gino. That was, I thought, a positive from this road trip.
I was going to highlight Julio as a positive. He stayed hot. I was going to mention that home run too, to take that ball and lift it into the seats in left field from where that ball was placed from Luzardo. That is, I mean, you took it right out of my mouth. That's how you know he was locked in. He's not hitting that ball over the fence back in May. He's doing it now.
I will say he's creeping up on the top 10 in wins above replacement for the season. Top 10. People wanted him sent down in June and May. Sent down
to call up Laz.
There was some dude going on Twitter a couple of months ago saying Ben Williamson had a higher ceiling. We'll talk positively about Ben today, by the way. We made a promise that Ben Williamson was going to get some spotlight on this episode, and he will get it. But people, I remember, were saying Ben Williamson over Julio. But now Julio's like, this is his hot streak. He's back. And this is exactly what they need when they're going to go play teams like the Phillies who could dice them with lefties.
Can I read one Julio stat?
Sure.
It comes from Mariners PR earlier here on Thursday. And for all of the discourse that exists around Julio, including from how we talk about him, and including from what we said when he struggled in the middle of the year and he got off to another slow start, and there was plenty of discourse that was very warranted, stats like this really make you take a step back and say, oh, Wow. In a positive way about Julio. Because Mariners PR tweeted today, position players to post 20-plus WAR by Baseball Reference and make 3 or more All-Star games in their first 4 seasons. So again, 20 wins or more and 3 or more All-Star games in your first 4 seasons.
Can I guess?
Well, it's a long list.
Oh, it is long. Okay, never mind.
There's a handful or 2 of guys. There's basically 2 handfuls of guys. But the list is Joe DiMaggio, Ted Williams, Joe Gordon, him I don't know, Mickey Mantle, Hank Aaron, Frank Robinson, Ken Griffey Jr., Albert Pujols, Ichiro, Evan Longoria, Mike Trout, Francisco Lindor, Julio Rodriguez. That is a stat that makes you sit back and go, wow. For all the discourse that exists around Julio, this is a really, 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 really good baseball player.
I mean, just look at his, even if you want to look at his raw season numbers right at this second on how he's done this season, his OPS is creeping back towards 800. He's at up to 782 now. Mm-hmm. Remember, his career high as a rookie was 853. I don't think he's going to reach that mark yet this season. But Lyle, I think if he just stays the way he's going right now, he can get up to that 818 mark he had in 2023 in his second season in the big leagues. That OPS plus could definitely match the 130 he put up in that season. It's at 123 right now. I mean, there's a solid chance, if he keeps going strong the next 5.5 weeks of the season, that this could be, as frustrating as it was at times, the second best offensive season of his career.
Mm-hmm.
With probably the best defense, because he's been getting better on defense every single year in the big leagues. Now, I will say he had his fair share of rough spots, over aggressiveness on the defensive side this road trip, but net, he is still fabulous out there.
Definitely. If we want to stay on a couple positives before we get to one other storyline, and then the mailbag questions, let's just spend a couple minutes on each of these. What were your takeaways from Bryce Miller's first start back?
The fact that his fastball is up. His fastball sat 96, and if you go look at late in the start, around pitches 60 to 85, because he finished at 85 pitches. I think that was his pitch count. He was still throwing, when he threw his four-seamer, not his sinker, has 2 fastballs. When he threw his four-seamer, he was still easily getting above 96 miles an hour. Honestly, the results for Bryce did not matter as much because we've seen it with Logan, we've seen it with George. These guys sometimes take a little bit to get back and get back in a full like, where my command's sharp, my stuff's sharp, my off-speed sharp, like we're good to go. So I'm going to give Bryce 3 starts, maybe on his 4th start, then we'll check in on where he's at. But see that velocity where it is, and now that we're in the middle of the week, haven't heard anything that he's feeling sore. When I mentioned when he was rehabbing, he said he was feeling good the entire time. The stuff is showing positively that he can make it through these final few weeks and feel good, and we will get maybe 60 to 70% of the Bryce we got last year, which I'll take.
There is one Bryce Miller number from this start that is my big takeaway, and I think it jumps out immediately, and I take it and say, yeah, that is every positive you need from a first start back. Bryce Miller had 15 whiffs in that outing. He got 15 guys to swing and miss. That is a real number. And the fact that he only went 5 innings ups that even more. If you get 15 whiffs in a 7-inning outing, that's really good. 15 and 5 is you're getting a lot of guys to wave at your pitches. And to see him do that in his first start back, that is every positive sign I need. Yes, I want to see him give up less runs as time goes on. Yes, I'd like to see him be a little bit more efficient. Yes, we know that he is a guy that doesn't walk batters, and he walked a few in that first start back. But that's part of getting back into it. That's part of getting back into the groove. Not everything's going to be perfect. There is plenty to take away from Bryce Miller's outing to feel good about where he's going to be for this team down the stretch. And to see him get 15 guys to swing and miss says, I think he's really going to build on this.
And just remember, he was a bottom 15 starting pitcher in baseball while he was pitching hurt earlier. So just consider how much of a step just this start is compared to where he was not feeling great. His velocity was tanking. He was trying too hard and ultimately gets himself put on the shelf to get to where he is right now. So that's an overwhelming positive. The next storyline I think we're both going to talk about is a potential late addition to the Mariners bullpen in the month of September. that we saw for the first time yesterday on Wednesday. Our guy Emerson Hancock threw his first inning of relief in the Tacoma bullpen. What are we thinking?
What I'm thinking is, let's go, Emerson. In every positive way, I'm fired up for this. There is no secret that the Mariners bullpen needs reinforcements. We don't need to break down everything that happened on the road trip. You know the guys that have struggled in this bullpen. You've seen the roster moves that have occurred all year. The Mariners need some stability out there. They need some guys that can get more outs out there, and they need some more guys with big stuff out there. You throw Emerson Hancock for an inning a night and let him max out. I see this as a potential to be a very, very positive trend for the Mariners. He was pumping 97, close to 98 in his first relief outing. First ever one. He's maxing out 97, 98. Now, similar to Bryce, numbers weren't perfect. Gave up a run, gave up a couple hits. But I care a lot less about that in his first ever relief outing and a lot more about what the stuff says. And when it says 97, 98, and you know he's got an effective changeup at times, and you know he's got a couple other secondaries that at times have also really worked, yeah, sign me all the way up for that.
You're right. I think the stuff is what matters. They're going to take the fact that the stuff will play up enough for 12 innings down the stretch that performance and runs allowed in Tacoma does not matter as much. You want to know what the stuff increase was? His average fastball as a starter this year was 94.7 miles an hour. His average fastball last night in his relief outing was 97.4 miles an hour. An average of almost 3 miles an hour increase. Three ticks. Every other pitch ticked up at least 1.5 miles per hour. That is the kind of stuff increase you want to see with Emerson Hancock. And what was the knock on him, Lyle, as a starter? The knock on him was that the stuff does not play up enough to miss enough bats to consistently get enough outs as a starting pitcher. Now that he's thrown in the bullpen and his fastball sitting in the upper 90s, that helps him out a lot to get those swings and misses. And fortunately for him, the low leverage part of the Mariners bullpen has not exactly bought themselves a whole lot of cushion for their spots in that pen. And on top of that, the starting rotation has not helped with that either because they've had to throw so much. But you're trying to find anybody that you can put in even a semi-medium leverage situation and feel comfortable in. And Emerson could be that guy. He's got options. You've already used an option with him this year. You could maneuver your bullpen around to put him in pretty easily.
Again, sign me all the way up. I am picturing a playoff bullpen that could be Matt Brash, Andres Munoz, Gabe Spire, Caleb Ferguson, Edward Bizardo, Emerson Hancock, and then potentially Bryce Miller and Logan Evans. And I would sign up for all
Carlos Vargas. Oh, the look on your face.
See, the look on my face said it all. Partly because of how the performance has gone, aside from the 3 shutout innings he threw on Tuesday. Somehow. But it more has to do with the fact that, Dan Wilson yanked him out of that bullpen and leave him off the playoff roster. I would take the 8 guys that I just listed in a heartbeat. Will they do that?
I guess we'll see.
Actually, you may get 9 relievers in the bullpen because if you're only going to have 4 starters,
right,
you can have 9 relievers. So maybe Vargas is then the last one, which is fine. Again, if Carlos Vargas is the last option in the bullpen, that's fine. But I don't want him pitching in leverage.
Let me jog people's memory if you're thinking of who would Emerson Hancock replace in the bullpen. These are all pitchers who the Mariners have recently had in their bullpen. Casey Legumina are currently in the bullpen. Legumina, Jackson Coar, Soren Lau, Colin Snyder, Carlos Vargas. Would you take Emerson over those guys? I know a good chunk of you would.
Well, and Sauce is in there too.
Righty.
Oh, you're just talking about righties.
Yeah.
The Mariners already do have 2 lefties, though, in Gabe and Ferguson. I don't know how much that is like set in stone. So
maybe then I think about it as that Sauce is going to get optioned down anyways.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Or he could be on. He's not going to be on the playoff roster most likely. So
not if all of Emerson, Logan Evans, and Bryce Miller are all in the bullpen.
I mean, the way they could do it, I mean, they could put Emerson as the extra reliever in September. So they get him a few more outings in Tacoma, and then September 1st rolls around. They don't have to DFA anybody, even if they maybe should. And they put Emerson as the 9th reliever in the bullpen, and that would work out.
That actually is what I think is going to happen, because Emerson's thrown 1 relief outing so far at time of recording. He's going to need a few more. Now, I don't think he has to do what Matt Brash did, because if you remember when Matt Brash was a starter in 22, and then they sent him back to the minors to become a reliever, they sent him back there for a couple of months to really build up, because their vision for him long-term was to be a reliever, and he's been that. I don't know if Emerson Hancock is going to become a permanent reliever for the Mariners or not. He could. In time, he could, especially if by next year, Durangelo's up, Kate Anderson's up, and then you have all this starting pitching depth, and he is more valuable in the bullpen. But for now, for 2025, this is going to be such a short-term thing. I don't think he needs that many relief outings to convert to a big league reliever. I would say he'll make 3 more, maybe 4 more, and then by September 1st, you call him up as the extra guy.
And for so many of these guys, you sit there and you ask them, it's like, you want to be in the big leagues? And they say, yep, do whatever it takes. And this is exactly what that is. It's like, I've started my entire life, but you want me to help you potentially go win a World Series? I'll be the best bullpen arm you got in your bullpen.
I'm sure that is exactly what Emerson would say. As somebody who's such a team guy, such a down-to-earth dude, and like you said, I'm sure would love to be in the big leagues. Yeah. He's probably all for this year.
Yeah. And the last thing, Lyle, before we get to our mailbag.
God. Dude. Why do we have to sit here and fucking talk about the 26th guy on the roster on August 21st for like the 4th podcast in a row? Well, actually, rhetorical question. I'll answer that. Because the Mariners have made this a story. They've made this a story for no reason.
To repeat myself, I don't know why Dylan Moore is on the roster, let alone starting back-to-back games against the Phillies. I do not know. I understand Dom Canzone's wrist was sore. I get it. Put anybody else in. They are forfeiting one of the 9 spots in their lineup by putting him in there. That's just how it is. You could put any lefty, any righty, any switch hitter. Shit, they could have signed Sebi Zavala for the series or Tuffy Gozwich, and the OPS is not 140.
I'm about to play an exercise, and for all you listening, you can play along with us. So,
I know what this is about to be.
Dylan Moore in the last 3 months has OPS'd 140 against left-handed pitching. For a guy that is set to face left-handed pitching, that is his role, to hit lefties. He's OPSing 140 against lefties and continues to start. Let's play an exercise, TJ. Would Felnine Celestine OPS 140 against lefties right now at the big league level for a 3-month period?
I'm going to say no.
140?
Yeah, he's not going to OPS 1. He's going to sorry. What I meant by that, I didn't word that correctly. He will have above a 140 OPS.
Good.
It could be 200, but it's still above 140.
Oh, I bet you it could be 400 or 450 right now.
Ooh.
Let's keep going. Would now friend of the pod, Nicky Becker, right now, who just played in his first couple of minor league games, OPS 140 against left-handed pitching over the course of a 3-month stretch in the big leagues right now?
I'm going to say he would. I love you, Nicky, but friend of the pod, but no, he's not. He'd be under that. He just finished facing high schoolers.
I'm taking the over.
These are big leaguers.
Dude, 140. This is not a batting average.
At least Felnine has been seeing 90 for the last 2 years.
Nicky's played in showcases. He's seen good arms. He's seen guys that throw upper 90s.
For like 3 innings at a time.
All right, I'm still going to keep going because this is a fun exercise.
Okay.
Would Yorger Batista OPS 150 against would Yorger Batista OPS 140 against left-handed pitching over a 3-month stretch in the big leagues right now? Yorger Batista, for those who don't know, is in the Dominican Summer League.
I'm also going to take the under on that one because he's lefty.
I actually have to sit here and think about this. I will go with he would be slightly under. Right now.
Right now.
That's the level we've gotten to. A 17-year-old prospect in the Dominican Summer League is where I have to think about if you would OPS lower than 140 against left-handed pitching over a 3-month stretch. AKA, you would take almost every single other minor league bat in the system to put up higher than a 140 OPS against left-handed pitching over a 3-month stretch. And that is the answer we're both giving. AKA, I'm sorry. I hate having to do this. I really do. When we've had to do this multiple podcasts in a row, I've said the same thing. I don't want to have to call for people's jobs. But this has to end. It has to end.
If anyone can think of any baseball reason why Dylan Moore is still on the roster, please leave us a comment, because Lyle and I, after talking about this multiple episodes in a row, cannot find a reason. Not a single one. It's not defense. It's not offense. It's not base running. I don't think it's clubhouse. So what is it?
Yeah, and nobody's saying Dylan Moore's a bad clubhouse guy, but you don't need Dylan Moore in there to keep a great clubhouse. We are speculating on that. It's not like we're part of the team. But when you have Gino, and you have Naylor, and you have Solano, and you have Cal, there's leaders in that clubhouse. You have JP. I should add him in too. Does anything change that much? My answer is no. And let me say this too. Again, I don't want to have to do this, to have to call for people's jobs. And usually, genuinely, we don't. Even, because one way or another, things usually work themselves out in baseball. Donovan Solano really struggled in the first month to the point where it was almost unfathomable, right? And we said, okay, the team's either going to move on or he's going to turn it around. It's also very early in the year. And he turned it around. I'm not saying by any means Solano's been great, but it wasn't what he was doing in the first month. He had a hot June and he figured it out and he's been a little better. Or when other guys are really struggling, and struggling less than Dylan Moore, I might add, the team moves on. And we don't have to sit here and talk about these moves because they just move on. But there is a combination of just about the worst 3-month offensive stretch we've ever seen, and the team won't move on.
And this is a week after we saw what a real 1 through 9 lineup with this team does. And then the team goes out there and makes a decision to not do that on purpose. It's mind-boggling. It really is. Oh, how much the discourse changed around this lineup in the course of 1 week. 1 week, Lyle, the discourse was, this might be the best lineup the Mariners have had outside, or it could be even better than 95, 96, 98, and 2001. And then the next week, friend of the podcast, Ty Dane Gonzalez, tweets out, I refuse to take this team seriously based on who they are putting in the lineup. This is within a week.
I said the same thing in our Wednesday afternoon reaction. And I'm serious. You are choosing to not put the best 26 players on the roster, or you are choosing to not put the best 26 players in the organization on your roster on August 21st when you're fighting for a playoff spot. Actively. You are actively choosing not to put the best 26 players in the org on your roster. That's what's happening here.
And we can't figure out why. We get a lot. For this mailbag, well, we have got a lot of Dylan Moore questions asking why. I'll answer all of them right here. We don't know. We have no idea why.
It's become the great mystery in the Seattle Mariners universe. Seriously, nobody's got an answer for this. And here's the thing. You said this before we started recording. If he was like Solano, where he didn't have an at-bat in the last 2 weeks, and the only time you really saw him was to pinch run at times, maybe he'd have to play some late defensive innings for 2 innings here and an inning there. Fine. He started 3 games on this road trip. And I don't care that he got yanked out of the game through 2 or 3 at-bats. Those are still starts and at-bats he's getting.
Doesn't make any sense. And the only reason Solano played was because Naylor got hurt.
Dude.
Or he was sick, whatever it was. Because he's under the weather, right?
No, I think they just gave Naylor a day off.
Okay. Well, that was the reason. It was because Naylor was not playing that day, not because they wanted to play Donovan Solano. Some of these lineups have made it seem like they want to play Dylan Moore. I don't understand why. Christopher Sanchez is the National League Cy Young this year. The Mariners are going to put into the lineup someone who's, in the last 3 months, striking out 53% of the time.
I think Sanchez will finish second, but close enough.
Doesn't make any sense, Lyle.
Dude, I don't get it. What are we? They need to provide an answer for this. If they're not going to move on, the people need some explanation for what is happening here.
Well, Lyle, Justin Hollander talks to the media tomorrow.
Yeah, to give injury updates, not to say why Dylan Moore's still on our roster. Again, those pressers are for injury updates.
Well, until someone asks about something else.
Dude.
As much as I want to ask the question, I don't know if we'll get an answer.
I mean,
I am serious, though, to anyone curious why we wouldn't just ask. Asking a question like that doesn't usually result in an on-the-record answer.
Ever.
So,
you would have to
for
get
something
that.
We could share personally with you on this podcast, that would not happen, unfortunately.
That is something we'd have to hear basically behind closed doors. And
right.
we have not.
And then we could not say it on here.
Right. And for the record, we don't have some behind the scenes answer about this. That's wholeheartedly truthful. We don't. If we did, we'd say it.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
We don't have an answer. Nobody has an answer.
Nope. All right, let's get to the mailbag here, but before that, you have an ad to read.
I do, because our awesome friends at Pagacci's Pub 85 continue to do a bunch of great things and continue to be an awesome spot for people to hang out and watch all these Mariners games down the stretch. Look, as bad as the road trip was, you guys are still invested. We're still invested. This is still a playoff team. They're in a playoff spot, and you're going to want to watch the game. So you should head over there and do exactly that. There's 20 TVs in that place if you want to go and watch the Mariners and if you want to go and watch football, because football season's basically already here. College football starts next weekend. NFL's winding down the preseason. It's an awesome spot to go watch a bunch of sporting events with your friends. There's also pool and darts in that place. There's great food, and there's happy hour drinks from 2 to 6 p.m. on Monday through Friday. You guys know those are great specials, $3 and $4, 2 to 6 p.m. on Monday through Friday. It's an awesome, awesome deal. So all of that is over at Pagacci's Pub 85 in Kirkland.
Let's get to our mailbag. Reminder to all of you, if you want to be featured in our mailbag questions, we put out asks every week, but there's one spot where you're almost certainly going to get your question answered if you have a mailbag question, and that's over at our Patreon, patreon.com/MarineLayerPod. If you sign up, then you get priority access for our mailbag. If you have a question, respond to the post, and you get your question answered, just like our questions today. Patreon.com/MarineLayerPod. Ad-free episodes, priority access on mailbags. You get to jump on a call with Lyle and I once every month. We just had our call for this month, for our Patreon call this week. Get my language right. It was a lot of fun. That could all be yours too if that's something that interests you. So go over to patreon.com/MarineLayerPod and come support us. Let's get to the mailbag. And the first question comes from Tanner, Lyle, and Tanner's question is, if you were in charge of this team right now, what moves are you making and why? Right now, today.
I would take Dylan Moore and Donovan Solano off the roster, and I would add two of Ben Williamson, Samad Taylor, Leo Rivas, Miles Mastrobuoni. If you want me to pick two exact ones, I would... Honestly, there's a case for all of them. I'd add Ben Williamson back, and I'd take one of the utility guys. I'll say Leo Rivas.
Okay. The way I was thinking about this, the one justification, well, it's not a justification, but the one idea that keeps getting floated out there for Dylan Moore being on the roster is that he's right-handed. You need someone righty to hit lefties. It's like, all right, so let's play by those rules. You need a righty for Dylan Moore. Let's say you can take a lefty for Solano because Solano doesn't do anything on the roster anyway, and you can do a little right-left mix.
Well, I was going to say, like, Solano's whole role, the reason I'm saying you could potentially move on is because his whole role was supposed to be to hit lefties, and he doesn't hit lefties. Now, it's not Dylan Moore level, But Solano's not hitting lefties well this year, and he's not playing. So if that's the case, I feel like I'd rather have more versatility and speed on the roster. And then if you need a first baseman in a pinch when Naylor's out, you just play Raley. Yes, I understand. Then you don't have somebody to hit righties. But again, to hit lefties. But Solano is not hitting lefties. You could just let Naylor play every day, or in a pinch, you have Raley do it.
So the decisions by position. DFA Dylan Moore, bring up Samad Taylor for his spot. DFA Donovan Solano, bring up Miles Mastroboni for his spot. Roster in September is going to expand to 27. Or 28. You're going to an extra position player. I'd imagine then Robles gets added, starts serving his suspension. Once he is serving his suspension, then so you keep him. So he's serving his suspension. You're playing a man down. When the suspension is over, he's activated and allowed to play again. Therefore, you have an outfielder. You no longer need Samad Taylor. You send Samad Taylor down, and you bring Ben Williamson up. Or you could bring Leo Rivas up. To anyone's preference, I think bringing up Ben is perfectly fine. You can have him potentially play somewhere besides third base if you need to in a pinch. He's done it before in his career, so that's always an option. I do want to give a shout-out to Ben, by the way. He opened up his stance a little bit down in Tacoma, and he's hit 3 home runs since being down there. By the way, this guy is not exactly mashing home runs in the minors before he got up to Seattle. His career high in any season, college or pro, is 12 home runs, and usually it's about 5. So the fact he had 3 after opening his stance down in Tacoma is definitely a welcome sign. I'd love to see some of the data on that.
And 12 was in college, right, at William & Mary?
Yeah, it was. His last year there.
So with a metal bat. This is with a wood bat, with an open stance. I'm not saying he's totally lighting the world on fire offensively, but to see some of the swing changes and to see him lift the ball a bit, that is a nice sign. I'm not saying this is the end-all, be-all solution for the next 10 years at third base, but for the sake of what Ben Williamson can provide to the team, if he's going to lift the ball a little bit, that is a positive, because you know he can already play really good defense. If he could add a little bit more with the bat offensively, turns into a real role player. He could be a real utility infielder. Play a lot of third base on 2-3 days a week when guys need off days.
So I pull up Prospect Savant, which is the AAA version of Baseball Savant, Lyle. Some red here. Quality of contact, 85th percentile. Expected batting average for Ben, 96th percentile. Expected slug, 82nd. Maximum exit velocity, 110 miles an hour. His 90th percentile, which is, where your 90th percentile is. It's above average, 62nd at 104. That's why he keeps his strikeout rate low. He's not whiffing. Zone contact really high. That's not a terrible combination. I know it's AAA, but
it's pretty good. I like that.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll say it is better than his first stint down in Tacoma. His first stint down in Tacoma, he didn't get called up, if you remember, because he was mashing the ball. In fact, I believe he had like 1 extra base hit. Was not hitting the ball hard at all. But now it seems like he's hitting the ball a little bit harder here in the second stint. And I'd be curious to see when he gets back, someone writes a story about him, how much of that is due to his new stance. But he is doing what he needs to do down in Tacoma right now, which is the important part.
Yeah, I love it. I hope he gets back up in September because he can play a real role. You need defense like that in the postseason, and he can provide it at third base. Next question. Let's go to Graham, also on Patreon. And Graham basically asks if we have a second team that we root for. Because he said some people like to have a second team if their main team isn't doing so well. Some people like to have an AL and an NL team. But he said, do you guys follow a certain second team? If so, who it is? And he also asks, do you also have to deal with any team rivalry in your family?
To answer the second one quickly, not really. No, not to an intense level. And it doesn't help the Mariners just haven't been good at very much at all. So that part doesn't help. The first part, I don't officially have a second team, but if I were to choose one, it would probably be the Padres. Number one, we have a pretty close friend of ours who's a diehard Padres fan, and we talk about the Mariners and Padres quite a lot. So that kind of ties in a little bit. The Padres are fun. They try and win. They have star players. they're the National League version of the Mariners, roughly, which helps. The weather's great. Their ballpark rocks. So, yeah, I think that's a good justification for it.
I think for me, it's still the Mets. My family grew up big Met fans. My parents, well, and TJ's did too. Funny enough, our parents never knew each other, just like him and I never knew each other before we got to ASU. But yeah, my parents grew up Met fans. My dad and his friends were all huge Met fans. They're all still huge Met fans because all my dad's closest friends from growing up still live in New York. So yeah, I would say my second team would probably be the Mets. If I had an NL team I had to root for, it's them. Padres not far behind. But just because I have so many family ties that are Met fans, I'd say the Mets. The only problem with rooting for the Mets to win is then you don't get Frank meltdowns.
God, his meltdown today was so good. Oh, my God.
Dude, that was 2 straight minutes of cursing. Like, usually some other stuff gets mixed in there. That one, as Blooper replied to him, the Blooper Twitter account, that was an all-timer.
Yeah.
As we sit here, TJ, we're sitting here as he posted that reaction at exact time. I want to make sure I get this right because it was something. Frank retweets so many things. He's tweeting so much about the Mets today. This is crazy. All right, 4 hours ago he tweeted this. This is almost at 600,000 views on Twitter. Frank's reactions always bang. They don't usually quite hit 1 million. If something of his hits 1 million, he really did something right. This one might hit 1 million.
Mets are almost out of a playoff spot. Half a game.
Dude. Unreal.
Okay, secondary Mets fan, is Juan Soto a bust?
No, he's not.
Good enough.
I know Frank said he is, but he's not. Can you believe we now get to say friend of the pod, Frank the Tank?
Still sounds surreal. I'll say that. This next question is for you, Lyle. This comes from Josh on Patreon, and Josh's question is: last week's mailbag, you professed your loves for Adam's peanut butter, but we didn't talk about 2 things the rest of us peanut butter nerds are dying to know. Chunky or creamy, number 1. Number 2, no stir or regular. Please include your reasoning behind your answers or reveal so much about your personality to your listeners.
You're speaking my language, Josh. These are the questions, along with basically any Mariners topic, that get me fired up. Creamy all day, every day. Chunky peanut butter, I think, is kind of gross. I'd eat it if I have to, but I don't like chunky peanut butter that much. Okay, gross is not fair as somebody who loves peanut butter, but I don't love chunky peanut butter. I think it...
Just peanuts.
I know, and I like peanuts, but honestly, I think it ruins the sandwich a little bit.
Wow.
Creamy peanut butter, always.
Creamy peanut butter is better, but it's not like... I don't think chunky peanut butter is bad.
It's not bad. Maybe that was too harsh, but I would just never even consider eating it over creamy peanut butter. Ever.
Okay.
And then stir or no stir? Either's fine, but most natural peanut butters, you do have to stir them up, like Adam's peanut butter. So Adam's peanut butter, when you open the jar, you do have to stir it all together and then put it in the fridge. So I would say usually ones that are natural and that you can stir. Again, like I like Skippy, I like Jif. Those are great peanut butters, but those almost feel like cheat day peanut butters, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Like, if I'm eating a regular peanut butter itself is not the healthiest thing in the world, but if you want to go for a natural one, then the stir is the way to go, and I usually always get the stir ones. I will say, if I want, like, a cheat day peanut butter, Lyle, I'm skipping Skippy. Psh. You know what I'm doing instead? I'm going straight for the Reese's peanut butter in a jar.
Oh, I thought you were saying you were going to eat Skippy. No, I would eat Skippy, but Reese's in a jar.
I would eat Skippy, but why stop at Skippy? Why not just go all the way? I mean, they sell the Reese's peanut butter spread in a jar. It is.
That's true.
It's pretty good.
I don't think peanut butter is that bad for you. It's not. I'm not saying it's a superfood, but it's not bad for you. It's just high in fat.
It's just pretty fatty.
Yeah, there's some decent nutrients in there. It's high in fat. It's not that high in saturated fat.
Yeah.
So if the rest of your meals throughout the day don't consist of high-fat foods, it's fine.
Yeah, and it's about, like with most things in most people's diets, it's all about balance.
Right.
And you balance it out.
Yeah. I would say most of the other meals I eat during the day are not very high in fat. So yes, I hope that answers Josh. Creamy peanut butter always. I am okay with either no stir or the regular. but usually I get the peanut butters that you do have to stir because that's what Adams is.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to another question. This one is from Josh. Or sorry, Josh just asked the question. Josh asked a great question because it was about peanut butter. I'm still stuck on his question. This is from Nick. Nick wants to know what our honest assessment of Dan Wilson as a decision maker is. Oh boy.
I feel like we've already talked about it. He's not a good decision maker.
No.
I don't know how else to sugarcoat it. He looks like a person managing in his first full season. Which, by the way, even with the poor decisions, his roster still won 89 games in his first 162 in charge, which is a good thing. But like you could watch his decisions and you say, does this make sense if you map it out? And if the answer to the question is no, which it is a lot of the time, and you're like, all right, well, I'm right.
Yeah. Nick wanted to include a reference from Billy Haywood in Little Big League, who's the 11-year-old kid that manages the Twins, and how Billy Haywood had to learn between emotional decision-making decision-making and emotional attachment. Did you ever see Little Big League?
Yeah, I think so. Some point when I was younger.
Okay. That's what Nick wanted us to use as a comparison, just because Billy had to learn that, you can't be emotionally attached to guys. You have to make baseball decisions as a manager, etc. Look, I think players like playing for Dan Wilson. We've heard that plenty, that the players really do like playing for him, and he's got such belief in his guys and unwavering positivity, and guys seem to respond to it, which great. Players need to respond to their manager. But he could also lose you games with decision-making, and this is what we've been worried about all year, that if this does not improve, it can cost you games down the stretch, or even worse in October. I really, really don't want that to happen. But when I see things like what happened on Wednesday in Philly, when all of a sudden he starts to use some of the middle relief guys, Bizzardo, I guess Ferguson, where it essentially says keep the game at bay by putting them in, and it's 3-1. He's like, keep this thing close. And then he uses Matt Brash to get out of a jam. I said, okay, he's trying to take this game seriously. He doesn't want to get swept. Game's close. We're really trying to win. Then Gino hits a homer. Game gets within 1, and you think to yourself, oh, they're clipping away at this thing. They're digging away. They're now within a run. Let's go to Gabe Spire in the 7th. It was not Gabe Spire in the 7th. And then the game ended 11-2. When it was 3-2 going into the bottom of the 7th inning. It's things like this, here still in August, that I cannot fathom.
Not great. So, in summary for the both of us, his decision-making has not been good.
No.
And we will see whether or not it will be enough to cost them at the end of the day. That is still to be determined. Let's get to the next question, Lyle. This comes from Xander, and Xander's question is there something with this pitching staff that can explain why the strikeouts are down? This entire year, it seems like pitch counts are up, innings are down, and lots of contact.
This is a good question. And this is a question that really takes some digging. So we did want to consult with our good friend, Joe Doyle, who's also a friend of the pod, just to get some additional opinion on why this could be happening. Because again, this is a question that's well thought out and takes some digging. I would say the overarching reason is you're absolutely right. They're absolutely right in the sense of pitchers have not been as efficient this year. They have not been as efficient with their pitches. So when you're Xander asking this question, yes, we can dig more into this, but to start off as a baseline answer, the Mariners' rotation has not been as efficient this year as they've been in years past. And as a result, it's led to some worse outings.
The simplest way to look at it is that last year might have been a career year for the rotation, and that this year is simply a natural regression process of human beings throwing a baseball on the mound, where it's just impossible for 5 guys to collectively be very good 2 straight years. Just unlikely. There's some other factors, though. The league was worse at hitting last year than it is this year. Guys, as a whole, across the league, are swinging it a little bit better. That means across the board, average, on base, slugging, strikeout rate, walk rate, all these things tick towards the batter's direction. And it, for the most part, lines up with the Mariners' regression as a pitching staff. Last year as a staff, across the board, they were 4th in strikeout rate, 1st in walk rate, 1st in batting average against, and 1st in whip. This same season, they're 16th in strikeout rate, 7th in walk rate, 18th in batting average against, and 13th in whip. Some natural regression.
So here's the key there. The walk rate's still not that high. They're not walking a ton of additional batters. It's more than last year, but it's not this seismic jump. The big difference here is they're not putting guys away efficiently, and that's what's led to some worse results.
Injuries, I think, have also played a big part of it. The Mariners have, until this week, had not had their 5 healthy guys in the rotation at the same time. And they might not even all be healthy because Bryce Miller still needs probably 4 starts under his belt where he's feeling great for us to call him completely healthy. But this is about as close as it's gotten. The rest of the season, the Mariners have been pitching with either 3 or 4 of them available at the same time. And that doesn't mean while they were pitching in the rotation, they're all healthy too. Because Kirby had his bumps coming out of injury, so did Logan. So that's another factor as well that can bite into the inflated numbers. And as much as we love Logan and Emerson Hancock, their efficiency numbers stacked up against the rest aren't as good. So they would bring those numbers down.
No doubt. Hopefully in 2026 it turns and the tide gets back to closer to where it was in 24. Hopefully just down the stretch it turns. That's what's most important. If they can have a good month where they're putting guys away and not walking people as much, well, again, the walks aren't crazy. If they can put more guys away in the final month and just be more efficient with their pitch counts and work deeper into games, that's the big key. Put more guys away, work deeper into games. That's really what they need. And if they can do that in the final 6-7 weeks and into the postseason, then what's happened in the first 4 months doesn't matter as much. Because if they're going to pitch like they did last year in October, that's what matters.
Yeah, 100% agree.
How about Isaac? He wants to know for our next Patreon question. Shout out to Isaac. He says, if the following was the Mariners offseason, how would you feel? And it's nothing other than this. The Mariners bring back Josh Naylor. They sign him for 5 years, $110 million. They extend Brian Wu, 7 years, $120 million. Trade Luis Castillo as a cost-saving measure, and the return would be a top 10 prospect in the org. And that's the offseason.
They make the playoffs this year and advance a round. I would say this offseason would be a win.
Agreed. It wouldn't be the best offseason in Major League Baseball. The Mariners would not win the offseason by doing this, but we couldn't sit here and rip it by any means. If they bring back Naylor and they extend Wu, and then if you're saving some money by trading Castillo, you would assume you're giving yourself funds to make additional acquisitions at the deadline of next year. I think you can call that offseason solid, a win. I'm not going to say it's going to blow everybody away, but that's a good offseason.
You make the 2026 roster better by doing that. Like the difference between that offseason and the offseason we just endured is that I don't think the Mariners made their 2025 roster better in the offseason before it. But if they did this, this upcoming offseason for 2026, they are making themselves better. So that's what they need to go out and do.
However, if they miss the playoffs this year, and I really hope that doesn't happen, you need to do more than this, because that would show that this was, again, a roster not good enough to make the postseason. And by Isaac's example here, that means Gino's not back, so you need a third baseman.
Yeah. So, and think about what this means for Brian Wu. I think the Brian Wu thing might even be bigger than Josh Naylor. Brian Wu's production at $120 million over 7 years it's a pretty good deal.
Oh, I do that.
This would be a win-win. It's not the most unrealistic thing ever for him to sign a deal like that because it only buys out 3 free agent years.
Especially if he is thinking about the potential lockout and wanting a deal done before that.
Mm-hmm. And he could hit free agency like a Zach Wheeler, age gracefully, get a 3-year, at that point, might be $50 million a year contract, retire with $200 million in the bank. That doesn't sound like the worst life in the world.
Mm-mm.
Last Patreon question comes from Rusty, and Rusty wants to change the subject on us a little bit because, well, I can't blame people for not dying to talk about the Mariners at this point. Rusty asks, is this Seahawks defense top 5 in the NFL? Who can we expect to break out from this rookie class?
Isn't it amazing how vibes change in a week with the Mariners?
Yeah. It goes from best lineup since 01 to when did the Seahawks start?
Oh, are the Seahawks a top 5 defense in the NFL? Close. I might put them just outside the top 5. They have a chance to be a top 5 defense this year, and they need to be a top 5 defense if they want to be a successful team, because I think this team is going to be absolutely built on their defense. Who from the rookie class could break out? If you want defensive players on the rookie class, I think the easy answer here is Nick Eamon-Worry.
Yeah.
That guy has a chance to be their Kyle Hamilton. He has a chance to be their safety that moves around all over the field, and you can blitz and put in the box, and he can cover. He's got a chance to be really, really fun. So I might be taking the easy answer here. Eamon-Worry would be the player I'd take to break out. And in terms of the defense, I would say they're just outside a top 5 defense with a chance to elevate to that by the end of the year.
I'll say they are a top 5 defense. I think they have the talent to do so. I'm really excited for Eamon-Worry, but I'm going to pick someone else for my breakout. Torrey Horton. Torrey Horton should have been a wide receiver, by the way, who they drafted out of Colorado State. He would have been like a second-round pick if he just stayed healthy in college, but he didn't. And he's been healthy in training camp, and he's been lighting up the news boards. People are very high on him. His talent is for the draft purposes, was a top 50, top 60 talent. So the fact they got him in the 5th round is insane. It's honestly just what they needed. They didn't have depth at wide receiver, and if you can find that in the 5th round, it's pretty incredible.
Especially because he's been healthy for the most part. I know he's battled a little bit of an ankle thing the last few days, but there was real questions about his injury history and if it would carry over in the NFL, and so far he's lit it up in training camp. Eamon-Worry, I should say, I guess for anybody that may be just a baseball fan and isn't a football fan, was a safety out of South Carolina. The Seahawks drafted him early in the 2nd round. He's essentially a first-round pick. The Seahawks essentially have 2 first-round picks because the rumor has it the Seahawks tried to trade up to pick 31 in the draft to go get Eamon-Worry on day 1. And if that had happened, they essentially would have just had 2 first-round picks. But they got Eamon-Worry by trading up with the 2nd pick in the 2nd round. So the Seahawks essentially have 2 first-round picks. And Eamon-Worry's got a chance to be a stud.
And if you didn't get the Kyle Hamilton reference, he's most likely not going to be this player, but I'm sure most of our baseball-only listeners know who Cam Chancellor is. It's not it's similar build, if you need a comparison.
Not a similar player, but the size for sure.
Big hitting safety.
Right.
Yeah.
But he's more like
Cam was more of just a safety. Eamon-Worry is a little more versatile.
Yeah. And again, Hamilton lines up all over the place, which is why I use that comp, paired with McDonald coached him on his defense in Baltimore. So
right.
Hamilton. So I think we do have one more question, Tej.
Yeah, we do.
Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Our final question. We go over to Instagram, and I want to make sure I get the person's name right. I think I have it.
Seawolf?
Seawolf. I just wanted to give his handle a shout-out just to make sure that he gets the proper shout-out. And it's C_Wolf. He wants to know, this is right up your alley, would you rather have the following player for the rest of the year? Dylan Moore or Abraham Toro, who was just DFA'd by the Red Sox. He's out there for the taking, Tej. Abraham Toro is a free agent once again. Well, he's not a free agent. Somebody can claim him on waivers. But the Mariners have a chance to actually, sometimes you got to go back to actually move forward, as Matthew McConaughey would say. They have a chance to bring him back.
This is a lose-lose. I either get the worst player on baseball on my roster or the 2nd worst player in baseball.
Well, who's the worst? Is it Abe?
That's up for interpretation.
You're not.
It has to be Demo. There's no other way. There's no other way around it.
So, hold up. You just openly admitted Felny and Celestine would OPS higher than 140 right now for 3 months against left-handed pitching, but you're not taking Abe over Demo at this point.
No, I said I am taking Abe over Demo.
Oh, you are taking Abe.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
Yeah.
Look at that. Even you can be bought out on the bid.
I would grit my teeth and say that I would take Abraham Toro over Dylan Moore.
Yep. Because guess what? You know what Abe's doing against left-handed pitching this year? OPSing about 600, a.k.a.
It's 4 times as much.
500 points higher in the last 3 months than Dylan Moore.
And that's the difference between Abe Toro and Aaron Judge.
It's true.
Think about that.
pretty good. You want that big of an increase, Mariners fans? You could get it.
Oh, I can't believe you made me make that decision. God, Demo leaves me no choice. I gotta stay consistent, though. Dylan Moore is probably the worst player in baseball this year, the last 3 months. So that means yes. Abe has to be on the roster. Shout out the Red Sox, by the way. No, they weren't putting up with anything. Said Abe was being Abe.
Jared Carrabis never had to get you that jersey. Sad.
No, he did not. Now, if the Mariners go out and actually sign Abraham Toro for Dylan Moore, I think I'm going to have a meltdown. Not what I meant by upgrade the roster, guys.
Oh, that would be the best piece of content we've ever put out. Your live reaction to that would be amazing. I would be so happy for every good reason for the sake of content. It'd be unreal. Good question, C_Wolf. That was really good.
You have to answer it, too.
Oh, yeah, I'd take Abe.
Well, it's an easy answer.
Yeah. Again, he's OPSing 500 points higher against lefties.
I guess. Yeah.
No, not I guess. That is what's happening. That is what's happening objectively. Sorry, team.
Do you know what's happening if I have to make this decision? Mariners are missing the playoffs.
What? You'd rather miss the playoffs.
Oh, no, I would not rather miss the playoffs. But if the Mariners are making their decision between these two players, they're missing the playoffs. Because guess what? The first time around, it was Jerry's favorite player in the world, Abraham Toro, going out there and purposely making the Mariners worse in the year they made the playoffs. And then they sent him down, and funny enough, they went and made the playoffs. And then we have this year where Dylan Moore might be Dan Wilson's favorite player of all time. And Mariners can miss the playoffs because of it. Let's see if they make the right decision again.
I hope so. I hope so. All right, those were some really good mailbag questions. You guys always bring it. Continue to bring it. If you want to have a priority on bringing it with a mailbag question, again, sign up for our Patreon. It's over at our website. You can find everything. We would love to have you get involved. And there's ad-free episodes. You get on calls with us once a month. It's really fun. We'd love to have you guys get involved. So shout out to all you guys that brought the questions. Shout out to all you guys who always listen. And as usual, that'll just about wrap up this edition of the Marine Layer Podcast. You guys know the drill. If you want to find our full-form podcast, you can do so wherever you get your audio pods, Apple, Spotify, etc. Go rate and review, especially on Apple Podcasts. Leave it 5 stars. If enough of you rate and review, we will read a bunch of your Apple Podcast reviews on the show. You can make them funny. You can make them mean. Hey, if you leave us 5 stars and then start trashing on a bunch of our takes, that's fine. It's still a 5-star review. It would actually be really fun to read a bunch of these. So go rate and review on Apple Podcasts. Leave it 5 stars. Like, comment, subscribe over on YouTube. Please hit the subscribe button. That's the best way you can support the channel. Everything's over at our website in terms of all things podcast related. MarineLayerPod.com, from our merch to our Patreon to, guys, live show this Saturday. We'll plug it one more time right after the game, 30 minutes after, over at the Hall on Occidental. We're going to be taking your questions, hanging out with you guys. We're going to be talking ball. We're going to be having some drinks. We're going to be giving out a bunch of stuff. We'd love to have you over there, especially if you're going to be at the game Saturday. Just come out and hang out for a little bit after the game. It's right across the street. It's right on Occidental Ave. We'd love to have you. So that's this Saturday, 30 minutes after the game, over at the Hall on Occidental. You can also find us all across social media at Marine Layer Pod. That's TJ. I'm Lyle. As always, we thank you guys for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.